And I continue exploring my theory that Erika Kirk, Beyonce Knowles, and Kim Kardashian are all products of the same machine. They are creations of the same beast. Now, in this exploration of mine, I am suspecting that it's the mothers who have a primary hand not only curating the image of their daughters, but also putting them in rooms and connecting them with a network that, for my opinion, is corrupt in nature, so they can use their daughters as cash cows. And in the process of acclaiming fame, there are, in my opinion, my humble opinion, occult practices that the mothers are very aware of. Long story short, I think that the mothers are putting their daughters in precarious situations with unsavory people for money and power. So that's the theory. And today I want to continue on a dialogue I started with the idea that Erika potentially was raised or exposed to a cult. Now, this was presented in one of Candace Owens' episodes. I'll put the name of the video in the description. But in her investigation of all of the ties to Romania and the suspicious activity with human trafficking and sex with minors, the whole nine, that in discovering the charity and the relationships with the nonprofit, there was a tip Candace got about one of the, I think it was like the homes that the children would stay in, that there were cult ties. So in the previous video, I was like, this makes so much sense to me. One, because there is a level of, let me say it like this. When I examine Erika Kirk's authority, there are several things here. One, it is of my opinion that she was positioned. She was positioned to know Charlie, to date Charlie, to marry Charlie. She was positioned as the CEO. She was positioned to open these LLCs. She was positioned to open these nonprofits and charities. I do not think that I'm looking at a hustler when I see Erika Kirk. I don't see a hustler. I don't see a go-getter. I don't see I'm gonna stop at nothing. No, I see that in the mothers. I see that in Erika Francevay. And for my exploration, I see that energy in Kris Jenner and Tina Knowles. And it's like they're the force behind all of the movement, the action, the business deals, and then their daughters may be privy to some of it. But once again, I think that they are more at the hands of someone else, and probably multiple people. So I share this because the authority that Erika Kirk holds, I've always sensed is generated. Like she has to find it. She has to like act it out. And some people may find it convincing, but I don't. Now, when Candace presented the possibility of her being connected to a cult, I was like, this checks out, because part of the process of being involved in a cult is there is a erasure of like identity and thoughts, right? It's kind of like a mind programming thing. And then from there, things are planted in, beliefs are planted, ways of being, systems, beliefs. And there's a difference. There is absolutely a difference when you are interacting with someone who knows and feels and believes their stance, what they're doing, what they're about, the direction that they're going in. And you can feel it because it emanates from them. It's like, it's from the heart, it's clear. The translation is clear, their words sound like chimes, because the truth has a resonance. It sounds different, it lands differently in the body. So when someone is standing in what's true for them, you can feel it. Like, you can feel the power, you can feel the force, you can feel a sense of authority. When someone is parroting something or repeating it because it was told to them and they were made to believe it, or they were even manipulated into repeating it, it sounds different. It translates different. And I think a lot of us have that type of experience online, where you come across different people and creators who you feel that level of authenticity because it's a clear translation, it's a clear transmission. They're living, they're embodying the energy of it. Versus like other people who are like, oh, well, this is a good idea, or I'm gonna act this out, or everyone's doing this, and I'll just do this, or I'll get a microphone and act like this. When they speak, it sounds hollow in my ears. And then also the way they present, it doesn't have that sense of gusto. There isn't anything compelling. You're like, huh, okay. Like that sounds nice, but like something feels off, or like that should add up, but then there's something askew. And once again, there's a difference between coming into information, embodying the knowledge, or coming into information, living the experience, coming into the information, and maybe you don't have lived experience, but there's like an integration there. It's not just a like, okay, well, let me repeat this, and it's like all like mental brain regurgitation. Or it's not like a whole charade, like, oh, I'm going to like act this out because this is what works and this is what people do, and I'm just going to be this big like dramatic force about it, right? Because even in that, something's missing. Like when someone's regurgitating from their mind, there's a grounded centeredness from like the heart, right? Because the truth resides in the heart. So in cults, unfortunately, the structure of them is to take from other people. It's to take their energy, it's to take their money, it's to take their children. It's to take their agency, their sovereignty. It's to interfere with their free will for their own gain. And that's an empty game. It's empty. Leaders who feel like they have to take from their followers, they're empty, there's vacancy there. And what happens, from my perspective, is the people within the cult have been tricked or manipulated. And they take on these belief systems, but it's like they're wearing them. It's like they put them on top of themselves. It's not coming within them. The belief isn't coming within them. Like, do you know when you speak to someone who's like really, really excited about something, but there's something off, where someone could be like, sometimes it's like they're really excited about religion or this like spiritual practice, and it creates this like high in them, and they're so excited and they're so enthusiastic and they want to share it. Sometimes people, like, you see that with like diets, like I think specifically like veganism. Is that a word? Vegans. And I was vegan at one point in time, but there's like this morality that they're so excited about, or this like health kick, and there's just like this high, or like, I'm doing this now. The pups are excited. Or a lifestyle change, right? There is a very distinct difference. I'm going to do my best to articulate this. There is a difference when someone is enthusiastic and excited and they just want to share because they feel full and it's just overpouring. They're just happy, they're gleeful. But there is a sense that change, that knowing, that belief is in their like entire body. It's like in their mind, it's like in their heart, it's in their actions, it's in their speech. There are some people, when they make the changes or they get into different groups or a different direction, it's what I refer to in the other videos like a false high. It's like they're like so excited, but you sense like there's something hollow still there. And what I've noticed with a lot of these movements and tactics, because I say tactics because the same premise that we see in organized religion, the New Age space, cults, gangs, fraternities, sororities, anytime people are being initiated into a group, a modern group, there's a lot of distortion in what it means to be a part of the group. Part of the distortion of what it means to be part of the group is there's an identity change, because if you're being initiated into a group, there is some form of initiation. Any form of initiation involves an identity change. You used to be here, now you're here. You used to think this way or be this way, now you have more responsibility, you're in a different place, now you have to be this person and think this way. You once did this, now you did this, right? There's this identity change. There is a bridge there. I think most of the groups I just mentioned, they prey upon. So once again, in the identity switch, in these groups, and like I said, even individually, if people are just making different life changes, what happens is what influenced them, or the person or the video or like the gym salesperson, they got them on a high of excitement of becoming this new person, of making the changes, of or stepping into a new direction. And it didn't come from this deep knowing. It didn't come from an integration. It didn't come from like self-exploration. It came because someone planted an idea, got people very excited, created a lot of buzz. And from there, this is where if someone has like malintent, it gets hazy. They start stealing, they start having people sign contracts, they start putting people in precarious scenarios, all these things because they were convinced and they were excited. This synthetic high that can be generated is dangerous, and I think is in a lot of even just the basic marketing and selling that we see online and in person. Put a pin in that. So I know I'm weaving together several threads, but with Erika and being within a cult, what I'm saying is the people within a cult setting have these beliefs and these ideas and these identities that were planted in them. It did not bloom from themselves. It did not come alive within them. And when they move and when they speak and when they talk with even such conviction, energetically, you can feel a vacancy there. You can feel something is off. It's not all the way down. It's not grounded all the way in. It's not translating clearly from their eyes. There's a vacancy. And when they're speaking, and this is what I get with Erika, I repeated, it feels like she's generating it. She's trying to like find it. She's acting something out. And in my opinion, whether she was associated with this cult or not, I have a feeling that she was exposed to some sort of adults who did this programming on her, where they basically said there is no inner authority that you have. But if you believe this, if you talk like this, if you follow this, if you act like this, then you'll feel the sense of authority. You'll feel the audience. You'll feel the feedback. And then it creates this false high. And then they're always chasing. They're always chasing. They're always chasing. It mimics a dopamine high. And it's of my opinion that a lot of these groups and organizations have figured out how to do this at a large scale, psychologically speaking, socially speaking, and with the divine, with different beliefs. So I wrote this poem, I guess you could say. It's very short. They're just questions I had thought of a long time ago, and I could speak hours and hours on them. But I'll just share this, because what we need to keep in mind is part of the reason people are in these scenarios and situations, whether it's politics, gangs, cults, organized religions. And that's not to say there's some very beautiful congregations and churches of organized religion. I'm not saying that organized religion is bad within itself, but the churches that don't have the people's best intent is who I'm referring to. It all revolves around identity. People stay because of identity. And there's many reasons I could get into it. In terms of politics, obviously there's reputations at stake. People are creating false facades, false presentations that they feel they need to keep up for the public. They do horrific things, and then they're threatened to be seen as this person, right? We're going to character assassinate you. The other thing is an identity so much if it's involved within a group. If it's time to leave a group, or if there's a discovery that this group is not good for you, if you don't have a strong enough identity as an individual, a lot of times people will stay and put up with the horror or the subpar treatment, because so much of their identity is associated with that order, organization, congregation, or even just relationship. Could just be like, no, I am a wife. I can't imagine not being a wife, For those who it may just be a microcosm of partnership versus a macrocosm of like, I'm a part of this church, I'm a part of this mom's group, so forth and so on. The other thing to keep in mind with the manipulation of identity is I'd like to speak more on this, but like I said, there's a transitional point where when you realize something isn't working, right? Whether it's the way the systems we live in, the money, the education system, if you realize, how my family said to go about life, if you realized everything I was told about pursuing a relationship or partnership, there's so much of all of our journeys that involve being disillusioned. There's so many illusions around us, and part of the whole point that we're here is to pierce the veil and to discern what's the truth and what's an illusion. All of us, okay, are on this path. And we will continue to be disillusioned over and over and over again. It's just part of discernment. And as we get better at discerning, the tricks get more sophisticated, and we just, continue on the path. But there is a point where in the journey, there are some illusions that are more earth-shattering than others. When you realize, wow, this isn't true, or wow, this is actually this, or this means this, or this actually came from that. And there are different points where all of us have a earth-shattering revelation. And once again, you then have to come internal and say, who am I now? Because I was this person operating under these conditions and these circumstances. And I found out this condition and this circumstance is a lie, or it's a trick, or it's evil. So who am I now? How do I navigate this space now? Like, what do I dig within now? Who do I become now? In that process of being disillusioned by the external world or your family or the love of your life, so forth and so on, by money, friends, health, the whole thing. If I'm not this person, who am I? This is where people come in, they try to sweep and take advantage of this very, very specific bridge. And it's like, you can be this, or if you have this, you can be this, or if you dress like this, you can be this, or if men want you, that means you're like this, or if you have this money, that means you're like this, or if you come with us, that means you're like this, or if your parents treated you like shit, that means you can be like this, and bum, 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 bum. And that disillusionment isn't safeguarded for that new identity and that grief to really come full term. So when it comes to Erika, it's of my opinion that she has been subjected to, it's not even remaining true or loyal to herself, because once again, I just don't sense she has an inner authority. I don't think she really knows what she wants or who she is, outside of just, this is what it means to be important or beautiful. Like, I'm just a social climber. And even that, it's like, that's the strategy. I feel like that's been shown to her and sold to her, and that she's implemented over and over again. But once again, it's just kind of like, it's weird. It's kind of like, those pageant girls, or anyone, if you just think of like the girl who like was the cheerleader, or like, has this, or seems like she has all this, but she's also kind of like a mean girl. And if you just peel back the layer, it's like all of us at the end of the day just want to be accepted. So I'm under the impression that she doesn't actually have her own sense of agenda or sentiment she lives by. I don't even think she's really interested in like, I want the money, I want the power. I get the sense she's chasing an identity, and people around her know this, and they say, okay, if you do this, or if you commit to this, or if you stick with us here, we'll make sure you are this. We'll make sure you feel like this. We'll make sure you're seen like this. So, and then people get taken advantage, such as her, with other people's motives who have more of a clear direction of what they want and what they're trying to take. So I'll end with this. When does commitment become sabotage? When does honor become abuse? When does loyalty become fraud? When does sacrifice become a ruse? I'll say it one more time. When does commitment become sabotage? When does honor become abuse? When does loyalty become fraud? When does sacrifice become a ruse? Because I'll end with this. The opposition, the evil, takes the truth and flips it inside out. Evil is live spells backwards, right? They think backwards, they act backwards, they behave backwards. And I think one of the most devastating things to see like this is there are divine principles I listed here: commitment, honor, loyalty, and sacrifice. And they take these divine principles and they extort people and they exploit people and they make people become committed to a culture based on death. They make people believe that they're honorable for causing harm and wreaking havoc and being violent, literally, verbally, psychologically to others. They frame loyalty as something that's meant to bond people together, but they actually use it to bind and take advantage of. And then the sacrifice that's meant to bring more life, that's meant to give to others. It becomes a system where sacrifice becomes this game of debt. Well, I gave this, so you give that. Or I did this, so I get that. When the giving of sacrifice is meant to bring more life to the person who gives, and who they give that to, the appreciation, the gratitude flows back into the person who gives. It saddens me, actually. It saddens me that these really beautiful principles of living well, of living with integrity, is actually taken and twisted and contorted, and they're used as tools of manipulation for others to have people do their bidding. There's much more, but I'll leave it here for now.